he would have just said, I don't remember her, I wish her well. If that's all he said, there would be no defamation case. I guarantee you he doesn't have it. And if he doesn't come up with a bond for the appeal, guess what? They can start executing the judgment against him. And I can't, for the life of me, understand this is all self-inflicted.
It is the proudest thing I could ever do.
And she's got so much animosity and just fire that just goes nowhere. I mean, she's got fire outside the courthouse, but not inside the courtroom. And when she tried to have fire inside the courtroom, the judge almost put her in jail. And she tries case after case after case. But I don't know one thing about the fucking rules of evidence. You don't.
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And it's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your board-certified criminal defense lawyer, coming to you with my pearl handle pistol cufflinks, so graciously gifted to me by our content genius that you know as Michael Rivers. Today we're reacting to the Trump verdict. But before we get to the Trump verdict, and there's a lot to talk about there. Here, my ride's coming. No, just kidding. First of all, you guys as fans are just the best, just the absolute best. So I get this card from Joe. It just says, "Dear Mr. Rivers, keep it up." But in the package that he sent the card in, he sent me a couple of a pair of cufflinks with the scales of justice on them. Joe, thank you. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You don't need to send me stuff, but when you do, I love it. It's just, and it's just a thank you. For our show, for what we do, and we get that all the time, and we really appreciate it. And then we got another gift in the mail today. Bruce, I'm a big fan of your YouTube channel. Your videos have brought me such entertainment when I've had a bad day. Keep up the great content. God bless you and your family, from Ryan Brown. And he sends me this coffee cup and says, "We can't fix stupid, but we can give it a court date." I'm just actually flabbergasted by the support you guys show us. And just, you keep it up and we'll keep it up. We try to give you a kind of a comical, this is because that's how I am anyway. I like to make jokes, but we also like to inform at the same time on issues of the day. So today we're going to react to Trump. Fucking Trump. I just can't even believe the shit that he does. Anyway, but before we get to that, this is brought to you by eforms.com. Eforms.com is a very effective way to remotely not only do business, but avoid guys like me. So when you are, a former billionaire and you don't have any money left because it's all been taken up by judgments here and there, you need to get rid of some assets, and you don't want to go through a lawyer, so you go get a bill of sale from eforms.com. That's what you do, because you can't afford a lawyer anymore. Aside from that, it really is an easy way to get like a power of attorney done, to get any kind of document, legal document, a rental agreement, business agreement, any kind of document that you want to have legally enforceable, go to eforms.com. It's really an excellent way to avoid the high costs of a lawyer drafting a document and have something that protects you legally. And plus, they're an incredible sponsor of ours, and we love them, and so support them, please. Okay, now, E.G. and Carroll sued Donald Trump, and they had a trial last year, and in that trial, it was deemed that he actually committed the sexual assault. Now, keep in mind, it's a civil case, right? So she only had to prove it by slightly more true than not true, a preponderance of the evidence. So it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a civil standard is a much lower standard. But she got $5 million on that judgment, right? And I think he's appealing it. And so what do you do when you appeal? You have to put up a bond. In other words, you got to put the money up. And you can either post a bond, in which case you put up a portion of the cash, usually 20% or so. So in that case, $1 million. And then, but you have to collateralize the rest of the bond, because if you lose your appeal, the plaintiff can then execute on the bond, and they get that money. Do you think the bonding company is going to just take that hit? No, they don't. That's why they make you collateralize the bond. In other words, what I mean by that is they make you put up an asset equal to the value of the bond plus the interest that it takes for the time period that the appeal is going to run. What was this trial about? Well, it was just about him defaming her again and again and again and again and putting things out there on Truth Social. So they had this other trial, and Habba, Alina Habba.
Would you rather be smart or pretty? And I said, oh, easy, pretty. I can fake being smart.
She was his lawyer. I guarantee you'll never see her again. You'll never see her fucking again. She lost this case so fucking bad. She didn't know what she was doing, and then we did a reaction to the judge admonishing her. But, I mean, look, I'm not really, a guy who likes to badmouth other lawyers, but when you don't know what the fuck you're doing, and when your best moves are on the courthouse steps instead of inside the courthouse or inside the courtroom, that's a problem for you. And when you're a low rent lawyer, you're not the Kasowitz firm. You're not, one of the high buck firms in New York. You're just this person over here. What does that tell you about where Trump's at? Nobody wants to do his work because he doesn't pay anybody and he doesn't listen to anybody. I guarantee you the reason she got admonished the last couple times in court and almost got threatened to be locked up is because she was doing Trump's bidding. She was doing what he told her rather than what she should have been doing to defend him. Why does that matter? Because, the lawyer is not a slave. The lawyer doesn't have to do everything the client says. The decision to settle and to testify are solely within the client's purview. The strategy, how we get there, that's the lawyer's. And she knows if she doesn't do whatever he says, she's out. Well, if she loses like this, she's fucking out anyway. So let's just kind of look at the verdict as it was read in by some reporters.
2019. The foreperson is a woman. I should note there are only 2 women on this jury.
That's interesting. Only 2 women on the jury. And why is she reading it like this? Because there's no cameras in the courtroom in federal court. That's why.
I'm sorry, we do have a verdict. E. Jean Carroll did suffer more than nominal damages as a result of Mr. Trump's publication of these 2 June 2019 statements.
Now, keep in mind what happens is the jury is given a form, a verdict form, and it'll have various questions. Did E. Jean Carroll suffer more than nominal damages as a result of Donald Trump's misstatements? And then they answer yes. If they answer no, then they don't have to answer any other questions. Because if they answer no, then there's no damages. See you later. But if they answer yes, then they go on to question 2.
First amount for compensatory damages for her emotional pain and anguish is $7.3 million.
Whoa, $7.3 million for compensatory. What's the difference between compensatory and punitive? Compensatory is I'm given money for how I've been wronged, or to make me whole, to cover my damages. Punitive are, okay, dickhead, don't do it again, and here's what we're going to punish you and send you a message so you don't do this again.
The amount for the compensatory damages for the reputation repair program is $11 million.
Ooh, so that's $18 million in compensatory so far.
We're now moving on to the questions about whether Trump acted with malice. Remember, the questions have to be answered in the affirmative to get to a question of punitive damages. We are still waiting for that answer.
So does Trump do anything that isn't with malice? And he's so open and notorious about it. And this is what kills me about it, because this whole trial, this whole $83 million verdict, was just because he couldn't keep his fucking mouth shut. Now, after this verdict, you realize he made all kinds of statements about this and that. He made all kinds of statements about how the judge was unfair, how the process was unfair, that it was the Biden DOJ, blah, blah, blah. But you know what he didn't say? He said nothing about E. Jean Carroll. Nothing. I think he kind of got the message.
As you wait for those answers,
Mr. Trump acted with malice. I'm sorry, Mr. Trump acted with malice in making the first of those statements. That's the June 21st, 2019 statement at 5:17 p.m. in which he denied it for the first time. And similarly, we are waiting to hear whether in making that yes. And June 22nd, 2019, he did also act maliciously or out of hatred or ill will in defaming her on that day. And here comes...
During jury selection, he posted like 22 times while he was sitting there in the courtroom.
Here comes the punitive damages award of $65 million, Alicia. So $65 million in punitives, $11 million in the reputation repair program, and $7.3 million in in the emotional harm, for a total of $83.3 million. That's a high 8-figure award. I had predicted we'd be high 8 figures or early 100 million.
So here's why that's important. To send a message to somebody who is a billionaire, giving them $5 million is nothing, right? But almost $100 million to somebody like Trump, who's actually been kicked off the Forbes billionaire list, gets him up and takes it, something to get set up and take notice. On this particular damage award, what happens next? So if he wants to appeal this, he's got to put up not only a little over $16 million for the bond. It's going to be more than that, because at 10% interest over the course of a year, let's say that's another $8 to $10 million. So now you're up, it's got to be up around $100 million total. In essence, his bond is going to have to be over $90 million. Now, that bond has got to be secured. So you're going to have to take 20%, so that's like roughly $18 million, or thereabouts. And then he's got to collateralize that, so that he's got to put up another 70 plus million in assets to collateralize that bond. Nobody wants to loan him any money anymore. I mean, Deutsche Bank cut him off, Capital One cut him off. And so he's running out. And so you've got a situation where he's going to have to come up with all this money. Now, and it can come from anywhere. It can come from donors. It can come from, benefactors. It can come from Saudi Arabia. I mean, it can come from anybody. But if it's coming from him, I guarantee you he doesn't have it. And if he doesn't come up with a bond for the appeal, guess what? They can start executing the judgment against him. And I can't, for the life of me, understand this is all self-inflicted. He doesn't listen to his lawyers. He doesn't listen to anybody but himself. And guess what? We're not winning. And I know I'm going to get a bunch of people saying, "Oh, you're so biased against Trump." You know what I'm biased against? I'm biased against stupidity. This was so... She came out with this statement, right? And if he wouldn't have said anything, like if he would have just said, "I don't remember her, I wish her well." If that's all he said, there would be no defamation case. And we wouldn't even know who she is now, right? And he wouldn't have this $83 million judgment. If he would have just crafted something simple that didn't defame her, because she didn't have a claim against him because the statute of limitations had run. So this isn't about the substantive offense of raping her in a Bergdorf Goodman store. That was never going to come to light had he just shut his mouth. I mean, she could go around and say whatever she wanted to say, and it would have petered out like the other ones. I mean, how many of the other ones have you heard about? There was a bunch of them, but I mean, we don't even know their names. Habba. Let's just see what she had to say outside the courthouse in her victory speech. Here she comes right outside Trump Tower. Now, let me just tell you something about female lawyers. They have kind of a double-edged sword because their appearance is mocked, not necessarily mocked, but scrutinized. I mean, look at the fur coat she's wearing. She's got such swagger. Her looks are scrutinized. Male lawyers we don't have any of that. Did anybody say, "Look at that fucking tie he's wearing"? We don't have that. So to that extent, my hat goes out to female lawyers who have to put up with a lot more shit than us male lawyers. But let's see what Habba has to say in her victory speech.
No. I'm glad you asked me that question. No, I'm not having any second thoughts about representing President Trump. It is the proudest thing I could ever do.
And she's got so much animosity and just fire that just goes nowhere. I mean, she's got fire outside the courthouse, but not inside the courtroom. And when she tried to have fire inside the courtroom, the judge almost put her in jail. Just want to put a shout out and a thank you to our sponsor, Step One. Step One is high performance underwear, and doesn't matter what you're doing. On Friday of next week, I'll be jumping out of an airplane. Guess what I'll have on me? I will be having my Step Ones on. It'll be the 4th time, but the first time I'll be wearing Step Ones. And guess what that gives me? Confidence. Confidence that I'm not going to chafe because of the Lycra panel. Confidence because it's made from a viscose material derived from organic bamboo, which doesn't make you sweat. So as I'm jumping out of an airplane, as I'm getting on the airplane and I'm feeling this and that, I won't even know I got my Step Ones on because it'll take care of everything. My goods will be all nestled in this little package. You order some right now. As you go to the checkout, put Bruce Rivers in the promo code and you will get 25% off. That's a deal only available to those who are watching this, and put Bruce Rivers in the promo code. And you get them, take them home, try them on, put them on, and guess what? You got 30 days. If you don't like them, you can return them. Step one, get some.
I'm having second thoughts about is the license that I stand here with that the people in there are supposed to have. I have not spoken because I respect my ethics while I'm on trial. But let me now speak about what has happened. I have sat on trial after trial for months in this state, the state of New York. Attorney General Letitia James, and now this. Weeks. Why? Because President Trump is leading in the polls, and now we see...
Okay, that's just bullshit. The polls have nothing to do with this case. I mean, maybe a reason that E.G. and Carroll spoke out, but the polls have nothing to do with these jurors. The polls have nothing to do with the judge. And this is just a red herring.
See what you get in New York. So don't get it twisted, whoever asked me that question. I am so proud to stand with President Trump. But I am not proud to stand with what I saw in that courtroom. I'm not finished. Let me just...
I'm not proud because I got my ass kicked like you wouldn't fucking believe. You know, one of the things, it's very tricky when you have a victim in a case, and E.G. and Carroll was the victim in this, legally speaking, to go after the victim and to go hard. You know, during her closing argument, Donald Trump got up and fucking left. He got up and he left the courtroom. I mean, who does that? And what kind of angry message does that send to the judge? And, you know, one of the things about a defamation case is malice. And you demonstrate malice to the court and malice to the jury, disrespect to the jury by getting up and walking out in the middle of the proceedings. What are they going to do? You know, that's really not information they can use in fashioning their verdict. They really can't, because it's not really relevant to their verdict. But you don't think that they take the character of the defendant into their mind, you know, when they're forming, you know, benefit of the doubt here or there. I mean, I've never had a guy just get up and walk out of court. I take that back. I've had one guy, but he was high on heroin. And it was good that he did because, well, he got locked up later. So that's another story. But anyway, let's hear what more Miss Habba has to say.
Let's finish and I'll take questions, please. Before I walked into court, that judge decided that every single defense President Trump had, we were not allowed to raise in front of the jury.
Why is that? Why couldn't you raise the defense? Because it already had been litigated between the parties. It's called res judicata. The matter had been decided. And that's the issue about whether or not Donald Trump had committed the act that he was accused of. They already had that trial. That had already been proven. Now that, you know, to the satisfaction of a civil jury. This was only about damages in defamation.
Is in writing, and I encourage the journalists, the real journalists, to take the minute to look at his orders. There was no proof. And I couldn't prove that she didn't bring in the dress. There was no DNA. There was no expert. My experts were denied. 2 of...
Because it already had been fucking decided. Why would you even have experts? Because you know what the case is about. You know, this is what just kills me about her. She's just clueless. And she tries case after case after case. But I don't know one thing about the fucking rules of evidence. You don't. And when you don't, guess what? Bend over, grab your ankles, and up your ass the gavel goes.
2 of them were denied to come in. They didn't let me bring up that Reid Hoffman funded Miss Kaplan. And you know what we got in there? That my witness, who was her friend, who said that she is a drug addict and the drug addict is herself. That friend, I found out.
That's character assassination. I mean, there's just no way that would come in. I mean, I don't care what judge it is. There's no federal judge that, one of the things that the federal judge does is streamline everything. You really, in federal court, you really don't get much voir dire. Voir dire is jury selection. You really don't get to go astray and give a political speech like Trump wanted to do.
In there was paid for by Miss Kaplan's firm, and that is disgusting. That is a violation of everything I stand for, and that is why I stand with Trump. And that is why so many Americans are so proud that he is running again and so excited to run to the ballot box. But don't get it twisted. We are seeing a violation of our justice system. Ladies and gentlemen, you are not allowed to be stripped of every defense that you have. You are not allowed to be told.
What's the defense? I mean, I suppose there would be defenses to the amount of damages. If you have an expert that talks about her employability, I mean, she's 80 years old. I mean, how much longer is she going to work? Her reputation. I mean, those kind of experts to counter, I guarantee you, should have been allowed, and I'm sure they were. But they didn't have anybody to help them on that issue.
Told that you can't bring it up, and imagine a point where a judge tells the lawyer before your client, the former president of the United States, the leading candidate.
Who the fuck cares who it is? It's your client, period. It shouldn't matter if it's, a truck driver or the former president of the United States.
And obvious nominee for the Republican Party. Before he takes the stand to defend himself, Ms. Habba, tell me the questions you're going to ask in open court and tell me exactly what he's going to respond. And then edited my questions, edited the response.
And why is that? Why is that? It's because she's gone astray so many fucking times. And he had to rein her in. Because, we're not going into that. Because you can't just go and ask whatever you want to ask. It has to be relevant to the cause of action at hand. And so if all of a sudden he was going to get on the stand, I mean, he was only on the stand for 5 minutes anyway, because he was going to just go off on how he didn't know her and he never touched her and all that stuff. That wasn't part of this trial. That had already happened. So the judge didn't trust her, didn't trust Trump, and gave them every opportunity to try this case the way they wanted to. But they went afoul of his orders at every turn.
He was allowed to give. And guess what my client did? He took this stand. He abided by the rules of this corrupt system that I have seen. We will...
Okay, this corrupt system, she's running so dangerously close to pissing off this judge and having the judge... You can't just get up there and impugn the judicial system like this. You just can't. Calling the judge corrupt is running very dangerously close to a violation of your ethics.
Immediately appeal. We will set aside that ridiculous jury. And I just want to remind you all of one thing. I will continue with President Trump to fight for everybody's First Amendment right to speak. Everybody's a right to defend themselves when they are wrongfully accused and to be able to say, I didn't do it. And to double and triple and quadruple down and...
That's just the point. The trial wasn't about whether he did it or not. It had already been established. How the heck, see, I'm trying to learn not to swear. How the heck can she not understand that this wasn't a trial about whether he did something or didn't do something? That had already been established by another jury. And this is about whether he defamed her or not.
Say this is wrong. This is wrong. But we are in the state of New York.
So it doesn't matter who you are as a lawyer. It's not your fault because you lost the fucking case. It's just he can't get a fair shake in New York.
We're in a New York jury, and that is why we are seeing these witch hunts, these hoaxes, as he calls them. And this is another one of them. Be brought.
It's a hoax. It's such a hoax that, Joe Tacopina, he tried the other case, the substantive case. She didn't try the case. And then he was supposed to try this case, but he backed out of it. Probably because he wasn't getting paid. Probably because they went like this on how they were supposed to do it. And he's like, fuck this. I don't need this. And then she is just licking his boots every fucking which way but Sunday. And that's why she got admonished in court. Because she's not she's doing what he wants, not what the court has ordered. And you can't just ignore court orders in federal court.
In New York, in states where they know they will get juries like this. It will not deter us. We're fighting, and I assure you, we didn't win today, but we will. The record that was made in there, and the behavior I saw in there, some of which was reported widely today, gave us the most perfect record on appeal, and even if I needed it, which I don't, we were stripped of every defense.
Remember what she said last time? It's you can fake smart, but you can't fake pretty.
Every single defense before we walked in there. And I am proud to stand with President Trump because he showed up, he stood up, he took the stand, and he faced this judge. And you know what? I'll continue to do so with him. Yes.
Ms. Habba, is the former
Of course I've spoken with the president.
Yeah, I suppose I could go in front of Jake Paul and face him and just put my face out there and just get my face fucking pummeled in. Oh, I stood there. He posted 22 times about this thing during jury selection. 22 times while they're in court. It's just stupid. This whole case, which she completely ignores the substantive nature of the case, but the whole case was brought about because of Donald Trump's mouth, his inability to control his mouth.
Ms. Habba, is the former president scared now of the consequences of his actions?
The former president does not live his life in fear, as you've seen every single day.
I think that's kind of bullshit because he's got 4 criminal cases that are also nipping at his heels. And I guarantee, and if you weren't worried about those at all, if you didn't really give a shit about that, and he doesn't live in fear, then there's something wrong with you. I guarantee you he's worried about going to jail. And, I don't know how much money Trump has. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to sit here and say that I know how much money he has. But what I do know is he was taken off the Forbes billionaire list. I do know that he now owes $83 million, and he's going to have at least a $90 million bond. And I do know that Letitia James has proved her case, and that's going to be in excess of $300 million. So that total is almost $400 million. That's a little much to be asking the RNC to pay, a little much to be asking his donors to pay. And guess what? If he has this churning money machine that he's got, raising, the Stop the Steal campaign and all this other bullshit, and he tries to use that money, saying this is, for my campaign, and he tries to use that to pay any of this stuff, he's fucked because that's illegal. You cannot do that.
Former president and probably future president will continue to fight for Americans. Thank you very much, everybody. Alina, does he have money to pay? Why did he leave before the verdict?
No, watch. Now he's got other trials coming up. She ain't going to be part of any team. She was down in Florida, in the documents case with Judge Cannon, and she says, oh, well, this may look bad now, but wait till we start taking depositions. It's federal court. You don't take fucking depositions in a criminal case in federal court. That just shows you she doesn't know what she's doing. She doesn't try cases. You can just tell, especially by the way the judges admonished her on rules of evidence. Anyway, this is our little take on Donald Trump. And it may seem like I'm having some glee in this. I don't really relish in somebody's misery. But when it's so self-inflicted, what else are you going to do? I mean, fuck. This could have been avoided completely. But Trump listens to nobody. He's losing everywhere he looks. He's got another lawsuit pending about a multi-level marketing deal that went awry. He's got the document case in Manhattan. He's got the Mar-a-Lago document case in Palm Beach. He's got the election interference case in Atlanta, Georgia, and then he's got the January 6th case. So, not to mention, just a host of things. And it seems to me that most of these cases are not going to wind up in his favor. And they're not going to wind up in his favor because of some rogue jury, some Biden DOJ, some whatever, some judges that are just against him because he's Trump. That doesn't happen, ladies and gentlemen. It just doesn't happen like that in court. You have the facts, you win. You have the facts, you win. Period. You know, I've won plenty of cases, but I've lost some too. And, you know, when I got my ass handed to me, it wasn't because of a corrupt judge. It wasn't because of a rogue jury. It's because I didn't have the facts on my fucking side. I've always been prepared. I know what I'm doing in trial. I know the rules of evidence. But sometimes we lose. And if we lose because we had the facts against us. Remember Michael Cohen? Michael Cohen went to prison for the exact same thing Donald Trump will be on trial in Manhattan for. You know, I mean, he did his bidding. So when you see him lose and lose and lose and lose, it isn't because of some DOJ. It's because the facts are against him. Again, I want to thank Joe for these cufflinks. Thank you, Joe. It was very sweet of you to do that. I want to thank Ryan for my we can't fix stupid, but we can give it a court date. I think Donald Trump could probably use one of these. And I just can't tell you how much me and Michael both appreciate our fans, because you guys are so amazing. And when I see you on the street, make sure you say hello, because I'll be sitting here in my step ones and I'll say hello back, no matter where I am or what I'm doing. So we'll see you next time here at Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Again, I'm Bruce Rivers, your board-certified criminal defense lawyer with our content genius, Michael Rivers. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, and do a good thing. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away.
23-hour lockdown, please, is that my God?